How does a movement born out of devotion to God become remembered as a symbol of secrecy and suspicion? The question is not merely about the past. It touches a recurring tension within religious history itself. When faith takes institutional form, when it acquires power, wealth, and influence, does it inevitably risk obscuring the very purity it seeks to protect? The story of the Knights Templar forces us to confront this tension with unusual clarity, because it stands at the intersection of holiness and accusation, of sacrifice and suspicion, of visible service and hidden rumor. The order known as the Knights Templar emerged in the early 12th century, in the aftermath of the First Crusade. Its founding purpose was both simple and profound: to protect Christian pilgrims traveling to Jerusalem. Under the leadership of Hugh de Payens, a small group of knights embraced a life that combined monastic vows with military duty. Poverty, chastity, and obedience. These were not merely ideals, but binding commitments. In a world where knighthood was often associated with personal glory and wealth, the Templars sought to redefine the very meaning of power as service. This synthesis of monk and soldier was not accidental. It reflected a broader theological development within medieval Christianity. Figures like Bernard of Clairvaux provided the intellectual and spiritual framework that justified the existence of a holy militia. In his writings, Bernard argued that the Templar knight fought not out of hatred, but out of love. Love for God and for the protection of the innocent. Violence in this context was not celebrated, but disciplined, subordinated to a higher moral purpose. The knight who fought without personal ambition, who risked his life without seeking reward, was seen as participating in a form of spiritual warfare. Yet even at this early stage, a subtle tension emerges. To combine asceticism with military power is to hold together two forces that do not easily coexist. The monk withdraws from the world to seek God. The soldier engages the world through force. The Templar was asked to do both simultaneously. This dual identity required an extraordinary degree of discipline, not only externally, but internally. For the danger was not simply failure in battle, but the corruption of intention, the gradual shift from service to dominance, from obedience to control. As the order grew, its influence expanded far beyond its original mission. The Templars developed a vast network of properties across Europe and the Middle East. They became administrators, financiers, and custodians of significant wealth. In many ways, they functioned as one of the earliest forms of international banking, safeguarding assets and facilitating transfers across great distances. Their reputation for integrity made them trusted stewards, but it also placed them in a position of considerable power. Here, the central question deepens. Can an institution devoted to spiritual ideals maintain its purity when entrusted with material wealth and political influence? History suggests that such a balance is exceedingly difficult. Wealth, even when acquired for noble purposes, introduces new forms of temptation. It invites scrutiny, breeds envy, and creates opportunities for misuse. The Templars, despite their vows of poverty, became collectively wealthy, and this paradox did not go unnoticed. Suspicion began to grow, not only among the general population, but within the political structures of the time. The order's independence, its transnational presence, and its exemption from local authority made it both powerful and vulnerable. It answered directly to the papacy, which placed it beyond the control of kings, but also exposed it to political manipulation. The very qualities that had once ensured its effectiveness now contributed to its downfall. The crisis reached its climax under Philip IV of France, a ruler deeply entangled in financial difficulties. Indebted to the Templars and seeking to consolidate his authority, Philip initiated a campaign against the order. In 1307, Templars across France were arrested, and a series of accusations were brought against them, charges of heresy, idolatry, and secret rituals that seemed to contradict their professed faith. These accusations have fueled centuries of speculation. Were the Templars truly engaged in occult practices, or were these charges fabricated for political gain? The historical evidence suggests that many of the confessions extracted from Templars were obtained under torture, casting serious doubt on their reliability. The process was less an impartial investigation than a coordinated effort to dismantle a powerful institution. Yet the persistence of these accusations in cultural memory indicates that something deeper is at work. The idea of a hidden secret society resonates because it reflects a broader human concern: the fear that what appears holy on the surface may conceal something darker beneath. This fear is not unique to the Templars. It emerges whenever there is a gap between public identity and private reality, between what is professed and what is practiced. In the case of the Templars, their secrecy, necessary in part due to the nature of their operations, became fertile ground for suspicion. Theologically, this raises an important distinction between mystery and secrecy. Mystery, in the Christian tradition, refers to truths that are revealed yet not fully comprehended, realities that invite deeper contemplation. Secrecy, by contrast, often suggests concealment for the sake of protection or control. The Templars operated within both realms. Their spiritual life contained elements of mystery, but their organizational structure required a degree of secrecy. When these two are confused, misunderstanding is almost inevitable. The suppression of the order was formalized under Pope Clement V, who, under pressure from Philip, dissolved the Templars in 1312. Their last Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, was executed 2 years later. With his death, the institutional existence of the order came to an end, but its legacy did not disappear. Instead, it transformed, becoming the subject of legend, speculation, and myth. In the centuries that followed, the Templars were reimagined in various ways. Some saw them as martyrs, victims of political intrigue and injustice. Others portrayed them as custodians of hidden knowledge, guardians of sacred relics, or participants in esoteric traditions. These interpretations often reveal more about the concerns of later generations than about the historical reality of the Templars themselves. Why then does the question persist? Were they guardians of faith or an occult secret society? The answer, in its most responsible form, resists the simplicity of either extreme. Historically, the Templars were a religious military order committed to the defense of pilgrims and the support of the Crusader states. The accusations of occult practice lack credible evidence when examined critically. Yet the very conditions that surrounded their existence, their power, their secrecy, their sudden downfall, created a narrative space in which such suspicions could flourish. This brings us to the psychological dimension of the problem. Human beings are drawn to hidden knowledge, to the idea that beneath the surface of ordinary reality lies a deeper, more powerful truth, accessible only to a select few. This attraction can distort historical understanding, leading to interpretations that prioritize intrigue over evidence. The Templars, because of their unique position, became ideal subjects for such projections. But there is also a more subtle dynamic at work. The suspicion directed toward the Templars reflects an awareness, perhaps unconscious, of the fragility of institutions. We recognize that even the most devoted communities are composed of imperfect individuals, and that the potential for corruption is always present. The question is not whether the Templars were perfect. They were not. But whether the accusations against them reflect reality or projection. In theological terms, this distinction mirrors the broader tension between divine holiness and human weakness. The Church itself is understood as both holy and in need of purification. Its holiness derives from its divine foundation. Its need for purification arises from the fallibility of its members. The Templars, as part of this larger reality, participated in both aspects. They were capable of genuine devotion and service, but also subject to the limitations of human nature. The enduring fascination with the Templars, therefore, is not simply about uncovering hidden secrets. It is about grappling with the question of trust. Can we trust institutions that claim to represent divine truth? Can we distinguish between authentic faith and its distortion? And how do we respond when the two appear intertwined? In the modern world, these questions remain deeply relevant. The context has changed, but the underlying dynamics persist. Organizations, both religious and secular, continue to navigate the tension between mission and power, transparency and secrecy, service and self-preservation. The story of the Templars serves as a reminder that no institution is immune to these challenges. Yet it also offers a more hopeful insight. The failure or fall of an institution does not invalidate the truth it sought to serve. The Templars, whatever their historical complexities, were part of a larger movement of faith that transcends any single order or organization. Their story, when understood carefully, does not undermine belief, but invites a more mature engagement with it. In the end, the question of whether the Knights Templar were guardians of faith or an occult secret society may be less important than the deeper question it reveals. It forces us to examine how we understand faith in relation to power, how we discern truth in the presence of ambiguity, and how we navigate the inevitable imperfections of human institutions. The answer is not found in choosing between idealization and suspicion, but in holding both in tension, recognizing that the pursuit of holiness often unfolds within the complexities of history. And perhaps this is where the story becomes personal. For the same tension that shaped the fate of the Templars exists, in a quieter form, within every individual. In each person carries within themselves a desire for purity, for alignment with truth, and at the same time, a susceptibility to compromise, to self-deception, to the subtle allure of power. The question is no longer about a medieval order, but about the condition of the human heart. In that sense, the true secret is not hidden in ancient rituals or lost documents, but in the ongoing struggle between what is professed and what is lived. The Knights Templar, whether remembered as faithful guardians or misunderstood figures, ultimately point beyond themselves to a deeper reality in which faith must continually be purified, not by secrecy or power, but by truth. O Lord of truth and holiness, you who see beyond every hidden thing, purify our hearts from all deception and pride. Where power tempts us, teach us humility. Where secrecy divides us, lead us into truth. Help us to serve you not for honor or gain, but with sincere and faithful devotion. Guard us from confusing outward success with inward holiness, and from trusting in human strength above your grace. May our lives reflect integrity in both what is seen and unseen, until we stand before you in truth and light. Amen.